Hey everybody, I'm Imp, and what I've put together for you here is what I've dubbed the Half-Life 1 practice kit. So this is a set of saves, configs, and binds that are meant to help you navigate and practice individual maps in the Half-Life speedrun more efficiently. This is going to be a very brief just introduction and installation guide, and there's going to be a more detailed user guide attached in the description, maybe even plugged at the end of the video. But yeah, I wanted to briefly introduce what this is before we get into installation. So to give you a general rundown of what exactly is this kit, right? What does it mean to be a practice kit in this case? So this is, again, a set of configs, saves, and binds. And what they do is on each individual map of the speedrun, they create triggers to start and stop your timer. They provide a setup, a save that allows you to set up movement into a specific section of the game, and a convenient way to navigate between every individual map in the run without having to access your console. So to go a little bit more detail as to what each piece does individually, the configs are going to turn your timer on your HUD. They're going to create a trigger at the start of the map or section, and a little bit more on that in a second. The map or section to start the timer, we'll reset it and then start it, and then a second trigger to stop the timer so you can see how long it took you to get from point A to point B. These configs also update your keybinds, so they will allow you to if you load AM and then want to go to UC, you can then, when you're in UC, it'll update so that you can go forward to FAF instead of being stuck in there. The saves are not meant to be universal, right? So that they're conservative in terms of resource management. You're always going to have more HP than you need, or at least should. You're always going to have more grenades or ammo or whatever it is than you probably need. And this is because, it's just not possible with the way that this is structured for me to account for every variation in resource management. So, in segments where it matters, where maybe your health or armor is going to affect the route that you take in a given map, you may have to edit some of the saves, but you can see how to do that in the user guide. The saves are usually going to be placed in the map before the map you're trying to practice. So if you're, say, for example, practicing map 2 of anomalous materials, your practice save is going to load you into map 1. This is to allow you to mimic the movement that you would take through map 1 and then create your own save before you touch the timer start trigger, so that your setup going into the map is consistent with what you'd be doing in the run, right? Because starting from a stop with a pre-strafe is not always going to yield the same results as continuing the b-hop chain that you would normally have moving into a map. And then again, I want to reiterate that these saves are not meant to be universally applicable. I followed my own route, my own variations on resource management, and I was conservative even within that. So again, you might find that the saves that I have provided do not line up with the way that you set up a particular map or section, and that's okay. In the user guide, again, I detail exactly how to go in and edit those saves so that you can use, the appropriate setups or resources or what have you. And then finally, the binds are going to allow you to move from section to section, from map to map, and chapter to chapter. So what I mean by section is that maps that are in excess of 10 seconds long are typically broken up into two halves. You have section 1 and section 2. Section 1 meaning first half, section 2 meaning second half. And then every map, regardless of whether it can be broken up or not, has a section 0. Section 0 refers to the entirety of the map. And if you need a little bit bigger of a breakdown than that, again, check out the user guide. It goes a little more detail there. And there's a couple of optional binds for toggling trigger visibility and drawing your own custom triggers that you can use in place of mine. Again, details on those will be found in the user guide. So what is the point of this, right? Why did I spend all this time making it? Well, I wanted to make practicing individual maps in Half-Life more convenient. I think as Half-Life runners, we have a tendency to prioritize, big tricks like IHD, oboes, etc. And we tend to ignore the more mundane sections like maps and unforeseen consequences, for example, because there's not that immediate feedback of, it's a lot easier to tell if it took 3 attempts to do IHD than it is to tell if you took a suboptimal movement route. So what this does is it places timers so that you can more easily get a sense for what you're maybe doing wrong in these less obvious sections. It's also just supposed to help you, with route planning and optimization. So maybe you are moving in a less than optimal way, or are trying to adjust to a new resource management or whatever it happens to be. This is just to help you on a map-to-map basis get a sense for how those changes and tweaks kind of function. The purpose of this kit is not to replace ILs. In fact, it can't replace ILs because ILs are entire chapters, right? And this kit only allows for practice of individual maps. And the reason for that is that maps in the game tend to share the same coordinate space. So if I placed a stop trigger for the end of the chapter, you might see that stop trigger in the middle of your way in the third map of that chapter. It gets funky. So this is not meant to replace ILs. This is strictly for individual maps. It is not meant to assist with resource management because, again, my saves cannot possibly account for every variation in armor and HP for a given strat. So you can set it up to assist you in resource management, but as it stands, as I've presented it to you, it is not meant to. But again, you have the freedom to make it do that. It's just out of the box, don't count on it to handle those things for you. And then finally, it's not designed to be competitive. I didn't build this with any intention of the creation of a leaderboard or comparing times or anything of that sort. Now, of course, you guys are free to do that, but just keep in mind that that was not the intent. So there are sections that you can cheese. There are ways to make, maps that you normally would take 30 seconds. You can finish them in 5 seconds. There are ways to cheat it. But the point is that there's no point in cheating it because you're cheating yourself, right? This is for practice. This is for you to get better at full game runs. This is not meant to provide another avenue to compete in Half-Life on an individual map basis. Now, with all that out of the way, let's finally get into installation. It's very quick and easy. You'll find the download link in the description. So go ahead and click on that. It's probably a Google Drive. You can just download the .zip file. And of course, I already have that downloaded here. Half-Life Practice Kit.zip. So installation is a breeze. All we need to do is go into that zip file and open Half-Life Practice Kit. And inside that, you're going to see this practice configs folder, this save folder, and the practice.cfg. Practice configs is going to contain all the configs that I've made to allow you to move and load triggers for every individual map in the game. Save is going to contain all the saves necessary that all the configs rely on to actually, get you into the map. And then practice.cfg is going to enable your binds for map navigation, which you are, of course, free to edit to match whatever you want them to be, as well as set up the binds for your trigger toggle, for toggling the visibility of triggers, and for placing your own triggers. And to enable those, you can just delete these 2 backslashes or forward slashes and replace the key with whatever key you'd like it to be on. So installation is very easy. All you need to do is navigate to your Half-Life install. This has only been tested with the 2005 version of WAN. From what I understand, it should be universally applicable to any version of Half-Life that's capable of running BXT, but I haven't tested it. So, if it doesn't work, let me know. But yeah, within Half-Life 2005 WAN, again, you do need to have BunnyMod XT for this to work. So make sure that you are running on a version of the game that uses that. You're going to go into your Half-Life folder, and then for WAN, of course, you're going to go into Valve WAN. And this is going to be the folder that typically is going to hold your demos and your config files. All we need to do is just grab these 3 and drag them into that Valve WAN folder. This could take a second, depending on your write speed or whatever. Keep in mind that save is exactly the folder where you normally make saves. So it may present you with like a merge thing or like do you want to overwrite files? Just double check that it's not overwriting something. It shouldn't. I didn't use any naming conventions that you wouldn't be using in this specific situation. But if you're extra worried about it, you maybe want to back up your save folder just to be safe there. But once you've got those copied over, you're done. That's the brunt of the install. All you need to do now is go ahead and launch your game using BunnyModXT. I already have my game open, so I'm just going to open that back up. And let me disconnect from this here. So you load the game, and then all you need to do to initialize and use the practice kit is just type exec practice.cfg. And that's going to load AM. You'll know you've got it right when in the bottom left it prints out practice config loaded, AM10. Just to kind of nail home some of the important stuff here, what's printed in the chat is going to inform you of the chapter, map, and section you're practicing. So by default, it loads AM since it's the first chapter. It loads map 1 since it's the first map. And then it loads section 0 because for every map, the full map section or section 0 is going to be the first one in line. And to explain what I mean by section, let's go ahead and jump to map 2. So let me also turn on my no board here. On the right, you can see my navigation keys. So minus will take me back one section. The equal sign will take me forward one section. So AM1 is one of those maps that we don't need to divide into subsections. But if I hit forward again, you see it says AM21. So the 0, let me pull it up here. So the 0 here indicates full map. 0 means you're not doing a subdivided section, you're doing the entirety of map 2 in anomalous materials. What the 1 denotes is that you are doing the first half, right? So 1 ties to first. So 1 means first half of the map. If we were to hit the forward section button again, we are now in AM22, which means we are practicing the second section of the map. So that's how navigation for sections works. The keys below that will navigate you between maps. So I was just on AM22, now I'm in AM3. And let me turn off show triggers because it's probably annoying for you. If I want to go to, let's say, AM5, I just hit that button twice, and now I'm in AM5. One thing to note is I would recommend before you go to the next section, map, or chapter to wait until the chat stops printing things. Let the chat tell you that you've got to the map you need. Maybe make sure you read it to yourself before you hit the next button, because I've noticed occasionally if you hit it too fast, it can cause the game to hang in the menu. And then just like with maps and sections, we can also do the same thing with chapters. So those bottom 2 buttons allow us to jump between our chapters, right? So this is UC, this is OC, we've got hostiles and so on. You can go all the way through the game and load a save for every map all the way till Nylonth. And once you get to Nylonth, there's a little buffer save in the middle. So there's one in the middle that allows you to go forward to Nylonth, or forward to AM, or back to Nylonth. So if you loaded the config and you wanted to go straight to practicing Nylonth, you just hit back chapter twice, and there you are. That's the gist of getting up and running. Just to give you an example of as how things work, let's go ahead and go to we'll do UC2. So we'll start here. Sometimes you'll have triggers that seem out of place. You can just ignore them. It's a quirk of shared map space. So what I just did is once I hit the level transition, I hit this start trigger. And on the left, you can see my timer is restarting every time I touch it. So as I come through this section here, my timer starts. And then I just run the map normally. And we will get all the way to the next level transition where the next trigger is waiting for us. And when I touch it, you'll see my timer stop, right? So you just play the map normally and you'll eventually hit those 2 triggers and your timer will be started and stopped as necessary. And then for these subsections, again, now we're in 2.1, so we're in the first half of map 2. Our start trigger is in that same spot by the level transition. And we can move through the map. But instead of having to get all the way to the door after Barney, once we climb the ladder and jump here, there's our stop trigger. So that's the gist of it, right? So we have the full map, and then that's the first half. So you have a trigger that's somewhere towards the middle. Again, I usually try to put those in places that are either bottlenecks, areas of, there's a specific trick involved maybe, or, something that interrupts your movement. But that's where the map is divided there. And then for the second half of the map, now our start trigger is here on the ladder. So now I touch the ladder, my timer starts, and then I play through the end of the map. And there you go. I can see it took me 4.5 seconds to go from the ladder to the door. And that, again, that is the convention that almost every single map in the game follows. And again, the exceptions to that rule are maps that are not long enough to be divided. Cool. So I'm going to leave it there. This already went a little bit longer than I was hoping, but it does take a little bit to get this thing up and running. But once you've got it, you've got it. So if you have any questions or want to know any more details about how stuff works, how to edit things, there are some quirks with like where specific saves are located, yada, yada. I do recommend watching the user guide. It's about twice as long as this, but it goes into detail about, just about everything. Otherwise, hopefully this is enough to at least get you up and running with the tool. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to join the Source Friends Discord, and at me @imp. I should pop up somewhere. You should recognize my avatar, and just shoot me a message. Otherwise, again, hopefully this helps some of you. Find good spots to practice. Find where you might be losing time, where you might not have realized you were losing time, and all that good stuff. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.